And now, good mic work commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Monday night. What's going on, guys? And welcome to your Winged Eagle Podcast for August 7th, 2023. The Raw after SummerSlam is in the books. Let me know what you thought of the show. What'd you think of tonight's episode of Raw? I thought there was some fun elements to it, other elements that were predictable, but some surprising moments too, with a couple of people getting some TV time and with a big turn, well, not a big turn, maybe a medium-sized turn in the main event. And what looks to be our payback match probably set up with Shinsuke Nakamura against Finn Balor. Now, I have been saying ever since July, a couple of weeks before SummerSlam, I've been worrying out loud on this podcast about what Cody Rhodes is going to do after SummerSlam if he does, in fact, beat Brock Lesnar, which we were all expecting him to do. And I've been saying for weeks that, okay, unless Bray Wyatt shows up or some sort of new feud for Cody kicks off at SummerSlam, I don't know how Cody goes to Raw, or I don't know how WWE holds a Raw after SummerSlam and keeps Cody Rhodes away from the World Heavyweight Championship. I mean, at some point, him and Seth are going to have to come face to face. If I was Cody, I know Cody has said that Roman's the belt that he wants. And he did drop a hint tonight, which we'll talk about Roman Reigns, saying that Brock Lesnar acknowledged him at SummerSlam. But Cody may not want Roman Reigns' belt, but if he's beaten guys like Brock Lesnar on the second biggest pay-per-view of the year, and he's been on a roll ever since he came back, I don't know how you don't justify giving him a title shot. So I've been wondering, if WWE doesn't want to do that, what do they do to kill time with Cody in the meantime? And based on what we saw tonight, maybe this buys a little bit of time, having Seth Rollins face Nakamura. Maybe that's where the Damian Priest cash-in comes. And then you get some combination of Priest, Balor, and Seth, and maybe even Nakamura feuding for that title. But again, where does that leave Cody? So those questions weren't really answered tonight, but we do have a few ideas of what they're going to do for Payback, which I believe is coming up in about a month. Luckily, that's not a 2-week turnaround. I think that's September 2nd. Check my math on that date, but I think somewhere around September 2nd. Hopefully, that will also be the show where they do Gunther and Gable for the Intercontinental title, as Gable won a Fatal 4-Way tonight. So I thought the show was pretty good with JD McDonough getting highlighted, Gable getting a big win, Nakamura might be getting a title shot. It's kind of promising, right? Not so bad. And we'll go through the show tonight and discuss it. We'll also talk a little bit about SummerSlam. Lots of chatter over the weekend about the SummerSlam main event, Jey Uso and Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship Tribal Combat. And over the weekend, I think from what I could tell, at least my observation was that fans have overwhelmingly not liked the main event, the finish. I think it's finally starting to grow tiresome to some fans, seeing the same finish over and over. And there's been that phrase tossed around all weekend, has the Bloodline jumped the shark? I think it's too early to really say that for sure, because we don't know what kind of rabbits they're going to pull out of their hat in the next couple of months. But the Bloodline stuff is going to continue, primarily, I guess, with Jimmy and Jay now. Roman Reigns is set for SmackDown, so we will see how all this comes together on SmackDown. WWE's got some pressure on them, because if this Bloodline segment following SummerSlam fails or is deemed a failure by the fans in any way on Friday, that's going to really start affecting the public opinion of the Bloodline. It's already starting to be affected, because this is 3 times now, Sammy, Cody, and Jey Uso, where WWE has failed to pull the trigger. And I think some of the fans are starting to get worried that by the time they do pull the trigger, we're going to see it coming from so far away, it's going to be really overly predictable, or it might just fall flat or not live up to what it would have been like had they given Sammy the belt at Elimination Chamber, Cody at Mania, or Jey at SummerSlam. You know, it's kind of like when you have a hot TV show or something, you don't run it until you run out of ideas. You kind of quit while you're ahead. And now there's a big debate as to whether or not the Bloodline has done that. So we're going to talk about the Bloodline. We're going to talk about the SummerSlam fallout. We'll elaborate a little bit more, as we were up here all day Saturday live reacting to the show and then sticking around for a review. So this is going to be my first true thoughts on SummerSlam now that I've had 48 hours to sleep on it and reassess it and think about it, things like that. We'll get into that along with the Raw results for tonight and some wrestling news, some sad news involving Sonya Deville. tearing her ACL. She's out indefinitely, and I think at this point you should just chuck those two turds that they call the Women's Tag Team Championships straight into the wood chipper because they are cursed. We're going to talk a little bit about the Lufisto and AEW issues. Lufisto had a big interview with Sean Ross Sapp, I believe it was on Thursday of last week, detailing a very bad experience she had at an AEW show about a year and a half ago, and how certain talents have been politicking to keep her out, and basically just talking about the ugliness in general in that locker room, to which a lot of AEW talent went on Damage Control in unison on Friday, all at the same time, all within 5 minutes of each other. Everybody praising, going to bat, and defending the locker room and everything going on in AEW. So we'll talk a little bit about that, even though it's a messy, stupid situation. We'll get into a little bit of it because we never got a chance to talk about it this weekend. We're also going to look ahead to All In, potentially list some matches that are kind of on tap, 3 or 4 now. I think we have a pretty good idea of actually happening. And last Saturday's Collision that did go head-to-head with SummerSlam did have some news on there, with Samoa Joe calling out CM Punk, a tag team title match, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat refereeing in the main event. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well, answer any questions you guys might have, and anything else you want to talk about here. So that's what's on tap for tonight. You guys know what to do. Please do me a favor and click and smash and mash that like button. Could really use the likes. The channel is desperate for likes. If you are not a subscriber, please do so. We are on the road to 40,000 subscribers, and we should be there soon, providing everybody just keeps on subscribing. So that is what's on tap for tonight. Let me cruise over here to the chat and say hello to everybody, and then we will be getting down to business. Look at all these channel members in here already. Zane G, Population 420, Zach Palgett. We got How Wheezy. We got Nick Musser in the house. We've got K-Dogs. Kendall, I'm going to be talking to you in a minute, K-Dog. And we also have Max Pokebrush, some of the early channel members now. Let's talk to David Brown and Angie Law, T85 backup. Rodrigo in college, good to see you. 7th season. Jay Lambo, Gerard, Sonic Plays, Ronnie Matthews, Trey Johnson. Shell Shock is here as well. Green Pea. Did I get everybody? Stephen Harris, I think I got you, as my pen fell apart. 1 second. Grab a different one. All right, and that knocks out all the channel members, all the mods, all the people saying hello. Now let's knock out these super chats. Thank you so much, guys, for hitting us with some early ones here. We've got $9.99 from Mark Galan. I'm sick of seeing Finn Balor constantly getting buried by Seth Rollins. I'm sure you are, Mark, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that as bad as this is, even though Finn Balor is getting buried, as you say, by everybody, by Seth Rollins, when you lay your head on the pillow tonight, the world is going to keep spinning, and tomorrow will be here still. So regardless of how many times Finn Balor gets pinned, life goes on, man. Life goes on. But thank you so much for being here, Mark, as always. We have JB up next. Thank you very much for that super chat. Has the bloodline jumped the shark? I think so. Rhea is being held back now. Rhea is being held. What are you talking about? Rhea is being held back and feels like the least important member of the group. Me and you are reading these two situations completely differently. I will say that. What are your thoughts on that? I do not think Rhea Ripley is being held back at all. I don't even know what that means. She can't really be involved in these matches because they're men's matches unless it's a mixed tag. I know she didn't have a match at SummerSlam, but I think they're trying to hold off putting in Rhea and Raquel in the ring together and not rushing that. But Rhea is still the most dominant woman in the company right now. She's got one of the most entertaining storylines going with Dom Dom. I feel the exact opposite. I don't even know how you could watch Rhea Ripley on TV in her current form and say she is held back. That's insane. Sorry to call you out there when you sent me such a nice super chat, but unfortunately, I kind of don't agree with that, JB. Or I shouldn't say I kind of don't. I really don't. I completely disagree about as much as a human being can disagree, unfortunately. But in terms of the bloodline stuff, I'm kind of agreeing with you there. I think now that I've looked back on it that, I don't know, man, I just think that WWE is going to start souring the fans. This has happened plenty of times in the past where WWE just overdoes something to where the fans just can't take it anymore, and then they turn something that was great into something that sucks, and I really would hate to see that happen to the Bloodline storyline. Really hope not. Why Nakamura, dang you. Scuba Steve, damn you. Spaz Phoenix chiming in with a very generous 20 to everyone who thought WWE was dead after SummerSlam. We already have Nakamura. Who thinks WWE's dead? How are they going to die? WWE could have put 8 matches of just chicken's butt fucking on SummerSlam, and they would still have had Raw tonight. They would not have died. But maybe it's just a figure of speech. But to everyone who thought WWE was dead, we already have Rollins, Nakamura, Gable, Gunther, Ripley, Raquel, and picking new women's tag team champs heading into Payback. That's true. My super unbiased SummerSlam review available now. So yeah, I mean, tonight alone, we basically did have the groundwork laid for Payback. We'll have a little bit more of it laid on Friday. And I bet you by the end of the week, we're going to have a pretty good idea what the whole entire card is for Payback. And that's not too shabby. I mean, on paper, this looks good. Rollins and Nakamura. The reason that's interesting is because you can tie in a cash in there somewhere. Gable and Gunther is going to be phenomenal, even though I really don't want him to win. Chad Gable, I wouldn't mind him winning the rematch, though. Ripley and Raquel seems obvious. And yeah, they're going to have to probably crown new women's tag team champions if they don't just choose to burn those damn belts, which is what I would do. And I did see Chelsea on Raw tonight, but I saw them announce Sonya. I think they announced Sonya's injury, but they did not say what they were going to do with the belts unless I missed it. Maybe they're holding off that for next week to announce probably a stupid tournament or something like that. But yeah, go check out the Spazsters YouTube channel for all his SummerSlam review stuff. Chris Ludek, appreciate the $5, dude. 3 days before my birthday, I may come to your restaurant. Can they really stretch out Roman's reign until WrestleMania 40 before he drops to Cody because it's getting stale? That's my fear. If they have WrestleMania 40 still in the back of their mind, and with Cody tonight on Raw saying that Brock Lesnar acknowledged him, that might, I mean, it's subtle, but it might be just a reminder to the fans. I haven't forgotten about Roman and I still want him. And I think that's great. But at this point, it's going to be tough to really get the fans invested in another 8 months of Roman Reigns unless they wanted to, do something crazy in between. And that's why I thought Jay had a chance to win the championship on Saturday, because we have so much time until WrestleMania 40. It's going to be asking a lot for the fans to stay tuned for another year, but that might be what we're doing. And stretching the reign this far after some of the bad feelings after SummerSlam, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I really would hate for WWE to ruin this Bloodline storyline that's been going so well, because when you look throughout history, you think of the greatest storylines ever. And I think of two specifically, the NWO and WCW and Austin versus McMahon in WWE. What happened to both of those storylines? They both turned into liquid shit because it went on too long. They watered it down. They couldn't decide what they wanted to do. They were making crazy decisions. The NWO was completely out of control, splitting off into two factions, having Sting, of all people, join the NWO when he sat in the rafters for 18 months just because somebody accused him of joining the NWO. That was enough to make him disappear for a year and a half. And now he's joining the group. The entire faction swelled up to 116 members, to where they had, an A group and a B group. Then they had to split it off into Black and White and Wolfpack, and it became a complete and total and utter mess. And then after it kind of folded and evaporated, and they tried to resurrect it a couple of times with Steiner and Bret Hart and all that stuff, it just sucked. And then you look at Austin and McMahon that started out so hot. They had a great 1998, a great first year. But by the time we got to that 1 year mark, right after WrestleMania 15 in 1999, do you remember what happened? They started doing the ministry stuff. Undertaker's burning Vince McMahon's teddy bear. Austin then helps Vince McMahon out, saves his daughter. They kind of become friends. Then boom, next thing you know, Vince McMahon is the higher power. And then Austin gets hurt. He comes back and he joins forces with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania. None of that was really making any sense either, because they were trying to squeeze as many nickels out of that story as they could. And they just kind of ran out of ideas. The same thing happens to sitcoms and, other shows that just hang on forever. By the time you get to those final seasons, new characters are introduced, new storylines, people change. It's not the same. And, the glory days are far behind them. So this is nothing new. Wrestling has made these mistakes before with great angles and great storylines that they really haven't been able to figure out how to stick the landing on. So this isn't like a new problem. This is something that we've kind of always had to deal with. And I think WWE, they want to make sure everything is done right, and they really focus the proper amount of energy on the storyline. And apparently a lot of it has to do with Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman. They have a lot of creative input on this. Paul Heyman made the comment the other day that the Bloodline is only in the third inning, Boy, 2031 is going to be a great year when Roman Reigns finally drops that title 7 fucking years from now. So the fact that Heyman thinks they're only in the 3rd inning, I'm like, well, what the hell are you going to do? Are you going to wait until the Usos kids are old enough to fucking join the main roster and get involved in this? Like, I don't understand how you can only be in the 3rd inning at this point. So that doesn't bode well for the fans that kind of would like to see this thing have a nice little bow on it, or be wrapped up sometime in the near future, like within the next year. But now, I've been talking about Gunther's Intercontinental title run ever since last February. February is when I first brought this up. I'm like, I think Gunther should just hold on to the title until September and break Honky Tonk Man's record. Now we are in a situation where Roman Reigns is about 1 year. I'd say Roman Reigns is about 1 year and 3 weeks, give or take, away from breaking Hulk Hogan's WWF title record. Hogan held it from January 23rd, 1984 till February 5th, 1988. It's exactly 4 years plus change. And 1 year from now will be about 4 years, and then you add the change. So somewhere around September of 2024, just a year away, year and a month away, Roman could potentially break Hulk Hogan's record, which means he'd have to survive another WrestleMania 40, beat Cody again. I really don't think that's going to happen. But, you have to wonder with WWE, let's just say hypothetically, okay, they get all the way. Roman stays champion until WrestleMania 40. The table is set for him to drop it. Is WWE going to be able to resist not taking that Hogan record? Because Hogan has done a lot of damage to his reputation, although WWE still keeps using him. So it's not like he's blacklisted like he once was. But if I'm in WWE's shoes, I would like to create some new records, with a clean bill of wrestlers that have, that don't have any problems or bad reputations or anything like that. And Roman Reigns breaking that record would be tempting if I'm somebody in a creative position in WWE. It would be tempting to have Roman Reigns break Hogan's 4-year run from 84 to 88. He's only a year away from doing it now. But you're talking now, but past WrestleMania 40. Do I think any of this is going to happen? Probably not. I think knowing the fans, the only way that would work is if you had some big turn or something big happen in the bloodline that was able to keep our interest, because many fans believe that the bloodline doesn't need the title. And I kind of agree. I think had Cody won the belt at WrestleMania 39 this year, I still think a lot of this bloodline stuff could have been done and still be very interesting. But, they held off. And maybe it wasn't time for Cody to win the title, coming in at number 30 as a babyface and winning the Rumble and that stuff. It's kind of cheap. This year, the story might be for Cody to be number 1 and for Gunther to be number 30. We don't know, but that's a long time away. That's the point. And I think that it's asking a lot for the fans to wait that long. So I'm kind of wondering, I mentioned this the other night too. Do you think there's some crazy possibility that Roman Reigns could maybe turn babyface in the middle of all of this? I think the fans are starting to grow tired of him. They want to see him lose the title, but maybe Roman Reigns drops the belt as a babyface. Who knows? Maybe that's how far they take it. And we actually get a turn out of Roman, because I think Roman will probably go back to being a face at some point when all this stuff is over. But your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. All I know is we have an interesting next few months ahead of us. George Morris is here with his token 5. Thanks, dude. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? How is Tito? Raw 0 out of 10. Steve McMichael ALS, no bedridden and wheelchair and lost his voice. What do you think? I know Steve McMichael is in very, very grave condition and has been for a while. Glad he's hanging in there, and just wish him the best. That's all you can really do. I don't really know what to say in a situation like that. It's sad. He's not going to be with us much longer. And from last I heard, things weren't looking very good at all for Mongo. But we love Mongo here on this channel. Mark, 5 more from Mark, spending money to complain about Finn Balor. Finn's burial is more than enough reason. Kenny Omega staying in AEW. Fine. I don't have the problem with Finn's loss the way you do. So you're kind of talking into the wind here, Mark. Spaz, 5 more from you, dude. I know it's way far out, but right now I'm saying Night 1 Mania 40 main event is Ripley and Baszler off a Baszler Rumble win. I don't know how you don't do Ripley and Bianca, man. That's what I'm doing. To me, that's Orton and Cena. WrestleMania 40 is a perfect WrestleMania for that to happen. And Ripley and Baszler would be fun and everything. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like Bianca and Ripley is the match you should build towards at WrestleMania somehow. And I think one of them, like Ripley being the champion, I think Rhea Ripley should hold on to the World Heavyweight Championship until WrestleMania. And if Bianca, maybe a heel Bianca, who is now joined up with Lashley's group, wins the Rumble, and maybe even Judgment Day turns babyface by that point. Maybe you got a babyface Rhea going into WrestleMania or something to face a heel Bianca. Either way, I'm putting that match somehow at WrestleMania if I'm Triple H. But Ripley and Baszler, that would work, especially since Baszler just, according to her, ran Ronda Rousey out of the WWE. That's a pretty big win. Just like Cody beating Brock is going to elevate him, you'd think that Shayna beating Ronda would do the same thing. So you could build her towards that. And if you give her not an undefeated, maybe an undefeated, just give her a really hot fall, have her just tear through people through the rest of the year and then go into the Rumble and be dominant. I'd be into that. I wouldn't be against it. Oh yeah, Mark, right on. A super chat that doesn't have Finn Balor's name in it. Good for you, man. That's what we're talking about. Thank you for 5 more. Would love to see a double turn after Cody wins the title at 40 and Roman returns as a face. I don't know how. Well, it just depends on Cody's popularity. I mean, right now it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. I don't know if I would do a double turn right there in the main event. I don't want Cody's story to be finished in a heelish way. I think it's too important to Cody to finish it the right way and to have that moment for himself, his family, his dad, all of that. So I don't know if a double turn would necessarily work. But then again, I didn't think Steve Austin would turn heel against The Rock at WrestleMania 17 in a crowd that was going to be so pro-Austin. And to turn heel in front of him, they didn't even think he was turning heel. They thought Vince McMahon was turning face. So I don't know if that'll work or not, but it doesn't mean WWE might not try it. Might not. Jose Lopez, you are super late. Yeah. Don't let it happen again. It's kind of your last warning. If you keep being late, we're going to have to take action. So you have been warned, young fella. Anyway, that is it for the super chats. Sorry to be boring you with that. I know we got into a couple of topics already just answering those questions, but that's kind of what we're going to be looking into tonight. Let's talk a little bit about some wrestling news before we get into the Raw results. And let's start with Sonya Deville, who unfortunately did tear her ACL. She is out indefinitely. She did post a video on social media informing the fans after the news broke, I think on TMZ. And I did not see tonight on Raw if they announced what they're going to do with the championships, if they're going to be crowned at Payback. And to be honest, I don't care. I am gutted for Sonya Deville. She's one of my favorite people in the whole company. So is Chelsea Green. And the minute these two shared screen time together, I knew they were money. Didn't I say that? I said it right on Twitter. I'm like, give me more of them. Give me more of them. And they had this just beautiful level of obnoxiousness that was not super annoying the way the Iconics were. Like the Iconics drove me crazy. I like Peyton Royce and Billy was funny with the "Are you joking me" thing, and they had their moments, but overall they drove me fucking nuts. Just too loud, giggly, high-pitched, obnoxious, just bleh. Sonya and Chelsea, on the other hand, were so much better, in my opinion. Just the way Chelsea was doing the Karen character, their entitledness. They're both really entertaining. They're funny. They've got good comedic timing. I just fell in love with the two of them. So nothing breaks my heart more than to hear this about Sonya Deville, because honestly, this was the last chance I was willing to give these stupid women's tag team championships. It has nothing to do with the women. It's not their fault. It's the women's division. It's them creating a tag team championship that they didn't need. And then they created tag team championships in NXT that they also didn't need. Now they've unified them. And here they are again, having to be forfeited or whatever. The problem with these titles, for the most part, is we haven't had enough Chelseas and Sonyas holding them. I know I kind of shit on the Iconics a minute ago, but hey, at least they were a team. At least they were a tag team that held tag team championships. And Sonya has kind of been on her own a little bit. She was with Mandy Rose, but the team with Chelsea did feel like an actual team. Even though it's been a short-lived alliance, they feel like a team to me. And they feel like they belong together. And I just loved them. And I'm like, you know what? This might breathe some life into a set of championships that are complete garbage. I couldn't name hardly any tag team champions. I joked a couple of weeks ago, I saw a picture of Charlotte and Asuka as tag team champions, and I'm like, I don't even remember that happening. I have no recollection of Charlotte or Asuka holding those championships together. I have no recollection of hardly any tag team championships or their runs because they're unremarkable. They're not memorable. They do nothing. They're just there. They just exist. You know, it's just like a loser who has no job, just collects an unemployment, just breathes air. He just exists. He doesn't do anything. And these championships don't do anything. They're not valuable. They don't mean anything. If I was a wrestler, I wouldn't give two shits about trying to win those. I wouldn't be searching around backstage for a partner. Hey, let's go win the tag team championships, because that's all it was. They were just sticking two women together, go out there. There were no teams, and it's just useless. And now finally it feels like they might have gotten back on track a little bit, and then this happens. And so this is kind of out of WWE's hands. It's not Triple H's fault that Sonya got hurt or anything like that. I think they were trying with these championships, but now, you know, what do? I mean, you called up Mel Batost and the other one to come up specifically just to drop those and unify the titles. Do you go back to them now? Do you go back to the former NXT Tag Team Champions? I think Gigi Dolan's been called up. We did see Indy Hartwell. We got a glimpse of her tonight on TV, which was nice. So maybe you can figure something out, but I'm not too optimistic about the future for the Women's Tag Team Championships. And this was just a really unfortunate blow. WWE didn't deserve it. Sonya doesn't deserve it. Best of luck to Sonya Deville and her recovery. We love Sonya Deville here. She's been through a lot in the last couple of years, and hate that she had to have this injury. And get better soon. Come back, and if you can, I mean, it's going to be a long time. It's going to really be hard to recapture the Chelsea and Sonya magic, considering how long Sonya's going to need to be out. Chelsea could be a completely different character by the time Sonya comes back. So you don't even know if these two can ever be together again. We really don't know. And that's sad. But Chelsea has been impressing not only WWE officials, but the fans. And hopefully she can bounce back from this and be able to do meaningful things on TV, because she's too funny. She's too talented to not use. So just figure something out for her to do. Maybe she's going to try to keep both titles and feel like she should be able to keep them, or maybe she finds a tag team partner that can fill the Karen role the way Sonya did. I don't know if there's anybody injured right now that could be coming back, or somebody else on the locker room that they could add. There was a rumor going around today that Nia Jax might be heading back to the company. Apparently they're interested in maybe bringing Nia Jax back in, and that could be funny if Chelsea recruited her. And honestly, I think that would work, because I don't like Nia Jax. Y'all don't like Nia Jax. Nobody likes Nia Jax. If this woman comes back, she's probably going to need to be a heel, because nobody's going to cheer for her as a babyface. So what if she comes back as a Karen type of heel? That might work. That actually might work. I think Nia Jax, I can't believe I'm saying this, I think Nia Jax would be a perfect replacement for Sonya Deville. Like if they're going to do some match at Payback or something like that, or a tournament, or maybe they hold a tournament and the winner of that faces Chelsea Green and whatever partner she chooses to join her and defend the tags. And then that night she introduces Nia Jax, and then Nia Jax does all the work and wins the match. And then Chelsea Green runs around and with both titles, you know, like she won, kind of like Christian is holding the TNT, something like that. I mean, if you're going to bring Nia Jax in and there's nothing we as fans can do about it, it's probably the best case scenario, wouldn't you think? Would you rather have Nia Jax come back as not like most girls and just be that stupid baby face or that stupid heel that we've seen over and over that nobody likes, who can't work and just sucks altogether? I'd rather, if we want to hate her, let us hate her. Give her a character that makes you want to boo her. Don't go boo her because you don't like her face. Boo her for a reason. Boo her because she's an asshole. So if you put her with Chelsea, that might work. And I honestly think that Nia Jax, based on what we've seen from her personality on screen before, could probably pull a character like that off. I think she could. Can't believe I'm going to bat for Nia Jax here, but if WWE must bring this human in, then do it this way. Unless she's coming in to get involved in the bloodline stuff, but I doubt it. Maybe she is. Give her a Solo Sikoa gimmick, but for women. You know, just a beast. That was one of my biggest critiques of Nia Jax, and it wasn't her fault. It was WWE's presentation of her. I'm like, her theme song is way too poppy, way too upbeat. and I know they try to focus on her physical beauty. She's a very pretty woman, and her eyes and all of that, but she's big and strong. Make her a beast. Turn her into. I'd rather see Nia Jax be Umaga than be a supermodel type of character, where she's smiling and happy and all that. I want to see her be a killer. Have her do the Samoan spike, bam, and knock somebody out. That is the presentation I would like to see for Nia Jax. But I don't think they're going to do that and have her in that Bloodline storyline, because that would be injecting it with some poison, if you ask me. So instead, I think Nia Jax being the substitute for Sonya Deville and being a Karen-type character with Chelsea Green is the way to go there with Nia Jax. So we'll see if that's what winds up happening, but all the best to Sonya Deville. I don't know how much of this... Let's save that for later. Let's save Lufisto for later. We still have to talk about Raw. Let's get into that now. Let's talk about Raw tonight, because Raw was from Minneapolis. This is the Raw after SummerSlam. The first hour was presented commercial-free, so that was very nice of WWE to give us that first hour all in the house. And Michael Cole and Wade Barrett are your new Raw commentary team. There was a shakeup last week or over the weekend where WWE announced that Michael Cole and Wade Barrett would now be running Monday Night Raw, or announcing Monday Night Raw. And then on SmackDown, Michael Cole would also be there, but in between Corey Graves and Kevin Patrick, the former Raw commentary team. So I'm to the point now in 2023 where I don't give a shit when they shuffle their shit around. They can never figure it out. They can never decide who has chemistry, who doesn't, who belongs where. They are constantly doing this. I cared a little bit more back in the day when Lawler and Ross were around and they were moving some people around, but they cannot sit still with their commentators. They just can't. I almost forgot the dude's name, Jimmy Smith, right? Who was around for about a year, and he was there and gone before you even knew it. I had no problem with him. Kevin Patrick, he's not exactly a charisma fountain, but I don't really have anything against him. I think his commentary work is just fine. So one thing I don't like, however, is what they're doing with Michael Cole being on both shows. I mean, Michael Cole himself has mentioned in some interview recently in the last couple of years that he kind of has a target date for his retirement. He does not want to be in the announce booth when he's 80, and I think it's kind of scary that he's the only one that they trust. And I know he's got an executive job in the company, and he's got a bigger role now and all of that. And I know Michael Cole is good at his job. WWE really loves him. He started out rocky there. He was basically a Pettengill replacement and got trolled and mocked a lot when he was first there, but grew into somebody that grew into an asshole for the way he talked to Pat McAfee at that one WrestleMania and all of that. So, he does his job well, and I understand that. But again, how many Bruce Pritchards and Kevin Dunns do you want in this company? Somebody's going to have to do what Kevin Dunn does eventually. Somebody's going to have to do what Bruce does eventually. Somebody's going to have to do what Michael Cole does eventually. So the fact that Michael Cole is the only one they can trust to really tell these stories they want the way they want them to be told is kind of scary. I want my announced teams to have identities. I want Raw to feel differently than SmackDown. And that's been my biggest problem with the brand split ever since the beginning. Ever since 2002, I've been saying these shows don't look the same or feel the same. They don't feel the same at all. Back in the day, maybe a little, with the, in 2002 with the Teddy Long and the Eric Bischoff and the SmackDown 6. It was a little different, but at the end of the day, not really. And then once you got into modern times, all you're doing is changing the lights, and it's lazy and it's cheap. And now they're doing the same thing with Michael Cole. And I think you should, if you're going to have a brand split, then you should have, separate commentary teams, but it's just what WWE wants to do. Hopefully Michael Cole's okay with this now, going back to doing double duty, which he wasn't doing before. This is what they've decided to do. Who knows? We'll see. But Michael Cole and Wade Barrett are now your Raw announced team. Cody Rhodes opens up the show tonight, which we had a feeling it would either be him or Seth Rollins. Cody comes out and shows a video of SummerSlam after the match when he defeated Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar offered him a handshake. And he said that caught him by surprise. And he said what Brock Lesnar did was he acknowledged me. So there you go. There's that little tease. There's that little hint. And he said that Brock Lesnar acknowledged him and says he feels invincible and that he could beat anyone. And then as soon as he said that, Seth Rollins' music hits. Out comes Seth Rollins, and he's wearing the big blue shiny shit, and he's got those big rubber-looking boots that he wore a few weeks ago that were pink. Now they're yellow. He's wearing these things. He looks ridiculous. Cody's in there in a suit. Seth looks like he escaped a mental institution. It's a pretty funny visual to see the two of them in the ring here. And when Seth came out, I'm like, this is what I've been talking about. This is what I've been saying for the past few weeks on the channel here, is I said, what do you do after SummerSlam? Even if Cody doesn't want the World Heavyweight Championship, or even if WWE has plans for Cody and Roman at WrestleMania 40 next year, how is Cody going to justify not wanting a championship match against Seth Rollins on Raw? How is WWE going to justify not having Cody in the title picture? They're going to have to show intent to do it and then do something else to distract. And that's what they did tonight. Cody and Seth had the little showdown in the ring, and I liked that. And that's when Judgment Day came out, but it's only the three of them. It was Dom and Priest and Rhea. They came down and interrupted, and that's when Finn Balor, I think they got all the way in the ring with him. Dominic and Cody had a little face-to-face. Balor then comes in from the crowd and jumps Seth. A brawl ensues. Sami Zayn then comes out to make the save, and there's kind of like a pull-apart brawl. Officials are out there, and then Cody gets on the mic. Very predictable, formulaic trope here that WWE does. It's pretty much what they do every week. Opening segment, interruption, brawl, main event is announced. Same thing here. It's either Adam Pearce or the talent themselves proposing the match. Cody gets on the mic and says, hey, there's three of us. There's three of you. Why don't we get it on tonight? And everybody says, okay. But it would not be Cody and Sami and Seth in the main event. Sami would be replaced. We'll talk about that in a minute. First match of the night was a good one. Holy shit. Fatal four-way. The winner is going to get an Intercontinental Championship match against Gunther. And this was Ricochet versus Riddle versus Gable versus Ciampa. Whew. Oh my God, that's some talent. I mean, my God. Everybody in this match. I mean, Riddle is at his problems with the suspension and everything. But I mean, if this was a year ago, this would have looked maybe even more impressive. My favorite spot was whatever that top rope quadruple German suplex thing was. I forget who was even on the bottom. I think it might have been Riddle, and then Ricochet was next, and he was, I think Riddle was Germaning Ricochet. Ricochet was Germaning Gable. Gable was Germaning, who else? Ciampa from the top. No, I think Ricochet was on the top. Doesn't matter what the order was. They all came down. The spill, the landing, the bump looked great. I thought it was awesome. And in the end, very pleasantly surprised to see Chad Gable get the win here. We have been calling for a Chad Gable push for a long time. The dude is ridiculously entertaining in a Kurt Angle way. This guy is way more like Kurt Angle than Gabe Stevenson will ever be Brock or Kurt Angle. Chad Gable is unbelievable. So he now wins. He gets a championship shot. I don't think they announced this on Raw, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably going to be at Payback, but they didn't really say it. But if it is going to be at Payback, and Payback, I believe, is September 2nd, that's still a few days shy of Gunther breaking Honky Tonk Man's record. So I don't think that's going to be Gable's night, but what I would like to see is for this not to be a one-off, not just to give Gunther an incredible championship title defense at the next pay-per-view, and Gable fights his ass off, loses, and then that's it. He's right back to doing jumping jacks with Maxine and Otis. I would like to see this be a program, because at this point, Gunther is on the doorstep of breaking Honky Tonk Man's record. After beating Drew at SummerSlam, I think he's a shoo-in to win. Or to do it. I'm certain he's going to break the record now. So he will make it past Chad Gable, and he will make it to September 8th. But what I would do is I would have Gable be the one to take the belt off of him. Somebody's going to have to do it at some point. And Gunther, you think of the match he had with Ilya Dragunov. I saw some people saying, oh, they should call up him and have him take the belt off of Gunther. But I think it should be somebody on the main roster. And you have Gable right there. Gable is so insanely talented. And they've been doing nothing with him but comedy shit for a couple of years now. And there's so much potential there. I don't know how you don't give him a chance. So if I'm WWE, I book Chad Gable and Gunther for the Intercontinental title at Payback, and I deliver, and those guys deliver a match of the year candidate. I'm talking barn burning insanity, just kick ass shit, right? Great match. Gable, extremely close. I mean, you have 2 or 3 near falls there with Gable on Gunther to where the fans think it's over, to where they're even cheering because they think it's over. And then they realize it was a near fall. I mean, 2 and 9.999999999 and do that spot a few times where Gable is so close. He can taste it, and he just can't get it done. In the end, Gunther catches him with a final power bomb, which Gable's already kicked out of 6 of, and he puts him down, wins, retains the Intercontinental title, and he does that just days away. That's his final hurdle to get to Honky Tonk Man, and the commentators are really talking that up. Gunther wins here. He will become the longest running Intercontinental champion ever. And for Gunther to have to fight that hard to make it happen, and for him to win that match and to sit there. And years ago when they used to feed monsters to Undertaker, I remember the Heidenreich match, and Undertaker beat Heidenreich. And after the match, maybe it was Luther Reigns. I can't remember. It was one of those guys. And after the match, he kind of was looking down, like the referee raised his hand and Undertaker was kind of looking down at the man he just beat, like, holy shit, I was not expecting to get the fight out of that guy that I got. Like, he damn near had me, man. And it was almost kind of like a confusing look, like I didn't think human beings that tough existed. Something like that for Gunther to do. After he wins, just kind of looking like, okay, this guy's the real deal. Maybe not necessarily a show of respect or a handshake or anything, because I still think Imperium's going to be Imperium and heels and cheat and all that. But something in Gunther makes him realize that this guy might have my number, and if I have to face him again, I might not be so lucky. And then you booked a rematch, because Gable and Gunther should be a program, not a match. Not just one match and then go home. Program. Make this a feud. Stretch it. 2 pay-per-views. Have a trio of matches here. And Gunther beats Gable at Payback. Then he breaks Honky's record. You have the ceremony, the whole deal. And then whatever the fucking next match is, that India show is coming up, right? That big, crazy, huge show in India. I think that's going to be a Peacock deal, right? So maybe do it there. Or Fastlane. They're doing Fastlane this fall, right? I don't even know the pay-per-view schedule for the rest of the year. So whatever the hell's after Payback, you book it again, and that is maybe where you do the turn. Or I'm sorry, not the turn, but the change. And it would be weird for Gunther's long historic championship run to come to an end at a pay-per-view like a Fastlane or something like that, which makes that big super show overseas in India make much more sense. Gunther loses his title in front of 60,000 people in a stadium show. I'd be into that too. So that's what I would do. I know they've announced that India show. I just don't remember the date. So I would have Gunther beat Gable at Payback and then drop the belt to Gable at the show in India, or a Saudi show, or something big, whatever they have planned this fall. That's what I would do. But good stuff in that Fatal 4-Way. Loved it. Gable gets a title shot, and hopefully it will not just be one match with Gunther, a loss, and then right back to doing what Gable was doing. I think it is time to do something with this man. He's too talented. We cut backstage after that. Miz is showing up to what he thinks is a photo shoot. And then, of course, he's on the phone because he's a very busy Miz. And the lady that's kind of running the shit, she goes, "Oh, you have to wait." And he goes, "Wait? I have to wait?" "Yeah, Miz, you have to wait. You deaf?" And he gets really offended by that. And he looks over to the photo area and he sees LA Knight there posing. So fuck the brand split, right? So he sees LA Knight getting his photos done, and that's why Miz has to wait, and he storms off all mad. And then after that, we get a one-on-one match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Bronson Reed. So Nakamura has double duty tonight. He's going to wrap up his business here with Bronson, and then he's going to be appearing in the main event to kick off something with Seth. So Nakamura gets the win here clean with the Kinshasa, I always say that wrong, beats Bronson Reed there. And then after that, we get a Becky Lynch promo. So Becky is back after being bumped. And as Triple H, honestly put it, and he's right. He said this in the SummerSlam press conference. He goes, they were never bumped. There was never a card announced. They were never announced for the show. Just the fans assumed that. But I guess technically still it was bumped because you pretty much had a feeling WWE had that internally on their plans all summer long, and they did decide to bump it. But since they never advertised it, it really didn't get pulled if it wasn't advertised. And Triple H is technically right there, so he ain't lying. So Becky comes out, and she says blah, 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 blah. I wrote it all down. Blah, blah, blah. She's talking like Becky always talks. Then Zoe Starks comes out. She talks some shit. She gets in Becky's face a little bit. And then out comes Shayna Baszler. Now, Zoe, I think, is just putting her over her own greatness and how tough she is. That prompts Shayna Baszler to come out. And sure enough, we watched it together on Saturday night. When she took that knee from Ronda, I said, she has got the biggest black eye. I was like, she's going to have the biggest black eye. That thing swelled up immediately. And that MMA match, it sucks because the fans pretty much thought it was boring, but the women still had to lay their shit in for real, which is why MMA matches are so stupid. Don't do those in wrestling because it's high risk, low reward. And Shayna got a black eye. You know, either one of these women could have gotten a concussion or gotten seriously hurt when they're actually, you know, beating the shit out of each other to make this look as real as possible. And I don't think they should try to do these matches anymore. I think it really sucked. I think the Becky and Trish match would have been better. But seeing that shiner on Shayna, that Shayna on Shayna was pretty gnarly. I felt bad for her. And she starts in on Zoe Stark. And then Becky's like, I think the two of you should have a match. And then, of course, they agree to that. And we end up getting that match next. But before we do, I think we go to commercial. But we also cut backstage to Judgment Day. Balor and Priest are talking. Priest is asking Balor, what are you doing? Where'd you come from? You didn't come out there with us. Then you come in and attack Seth just on your own. And Priest and Balor's like, yeah, I'm just doing what I want to or whatever. And I'm just laughing because they're trying to hash this out. I'm like, this is the first time y'all have talked about this? You didn't have any time after the show at SummerSlam. Y'all didn't ride together. You didn't change together. You weren't in the showers together or leaving the arena together. You didn't have a drink in the hotel or the hotel bar after. You didn't have a text exchange. None of this shit was discussed until you're backstage at Raw with a camera in your face. Okay. No, I'm kidding. That's why we watch wrestling. But they're kind of going at it. Rhea Ripley's trying to be the peacemaker here. And then in walks JD McDonough for some reason. He now shows up and he says, you know, that briefcase is tearing your faction apart. I think you should get rid of it. Don't know what that means, but Priest is like, yo, man, what the fuck or whatever. So he leaves. And then we go back to the ring and we've got Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Now, Becky Lynch hung around at the commentary table with, of course, her lemonade. She's going to try to get this lemonade shit over now. Watch. She's going to get she's going to have a lemonade t-shirt made of some kind because throughout the week, she was posting pictures on social media of what she was doing, and she posted a very sexy picture of her in her kitchen with some lemonade on SummerSlam Saturday. I thought she might have been trying to swerve us and she was actually in Detroit, but no, she actually was home making lemonade. So when life hands you AIDS, make lemonades. That's how the saying goes, right? So she's out there with her lemonade, watching the match, and Shayna winds up winning with the world's baddest slam. And now next week in Winnipeg, home field advantage for Trish Stratus. So crazy. It's going to be Trish Stratus against Becky Lynch. Trish was not even on the show tonight, so Becky just was there to plug the match, talk some shit, and drink some lemonade. Then we are backstage again. I think they're about to interview somebody, and then they're like, oh, there's a commotion going on or whatever. And JD McDonough is back, and now he's attacking Sami Zayn. And I guess I don't know what's going on here with Sami, if he's legitimately injured or if this is just part of the story. He would do a run-in the main event. So hopefully Sami's okay and there's no real problem with him that's going to require surgery or, God forbid, require Owens and Zayn to have to forfeit their tag team championships after winning them in the main event of WrestleMania. That would break my heart. So hopefully whatever's going on with Sami is something temporary. After he gets beat up, they show his elbow and there is like a ball, like a tennis ball sticking out of the side of it. And I can relate to this. Who follows me on Twitter? Go over to my Twitter page right now. You will see the same thing on my elbow. It happens to me a lot. And I posted this maybe like a year ago on social media, and I don't know what the medical term is called, but I have really, I guess, sensitive elbows where if I hit them in the right way, if I smack them on something, and it doesn't even have to be hard, sometimes it's just kind of a light smack. If I hit them on some sort of hard surface, something fills up in my elbow. I don't know if it's fluid or what, but it swells up and it's gross. And my elbow looks exactly like Sami Zayn's. And it happens to me every now and then. And the last time it happened, it got so gnarly. It stuck out so far that I'm like, I got to post this. So I posted it on Twitter, February of last year or something like that. So I kind of pulled those pictures and retweeted that tonight, but you can see what that is. And so I don't know if that, and John Cena, the same thing happened to him that one year, remember? And he had his elbow out on Raw and he was showing the same exact thing. So I've had whatever is going on with Cena and Sami Zayn's elbow. So hopefully Sami is all right. Maybe he's a little bit banged up, so they want to keep him out of the ring, but he's still able to do some run-ins, and they're just kind of putting him on the back burner until Owens is ready to come back and the two of them can resume their tag team championship run. And at some point, I would like these guys to receive new tag team championship belts, because now Paul Heyman has finally stopped coming out with all three of Roman's belts, or the other two. At SummerSlam, Roman came out with just the one finally, which means the only situation we have to clean up is the tag team championship. So when Sami Zayn comes back, when Owens comes back, hopefully they're both okay. I would like to see some new gold straps around the waists of those two guys. So after Sami gets hurt, they show Rollins coming out of his locker room, and he's like, I don't think Sami's going to be able to go. And then Nakamura, of all people, comes up and says, hey, I'll join you and Cody. And Seth's like, all right, we've had our issues, but okay. And there was this little look between the two of them that disappointed me, because I'm like, you just knew that Naka was going to turn. It was like so obvious. And I'm like, oh, why do you got to do that, man? Not that I would have really, my jaw wouldn't have dropped had I not seen the Nakamura turn coming. I probably wouldn't have reacted that much in a surprising way. But the minute that interaction was done, I'm like, Nakamura's turning. You could tell. After that, we get Otis taking on Ludwig. Now, this was set up backstage, and Kaiser and Otis got into it. Kaiser was fucking around with Maxine. He better watch his shit. The match happens. Gunther jumps in, kicks Otis when the referee's back is turned, and Kaiser is able to pin Otis for the win there. So that furthers that situation. But I'm loving Alpha Academy. Otis is still found a way to be entertaining despite, them starting and stopping a couple of things with him. I am in love with Maxine Dupree. Usually those type of characters that are just there to be there, but she's really good. She's fun in the ring. I love her energy. I think her gear looks great, which apparently she makes herself. And she's been a really pleasant surprise, somebody that I wasn't expecting to be entertained by. I really am. And then, of course, we all love Chad Gable, and I'm hoping Gable has a great second half of 2023 here and a phenomenal 2024. This is their chance. They should make something out of this guy, but we already sang Gable's praises earlier. After that, it was time for the Miz promo. Miz is mad. Miz is big mad because LA Knight was getting his pictures taken when Miz was supposed to be getting his pictures taken, and Miz didn't want to wait and he ran out. So now he's out there in the ring. He's bitching. This was going to be great because Miz is great on the mic and LA Knight is great on the mic. This is a natural confrontation. If MJF ever comes to WWE, I'm sure Miz and LA Knight will be some of the first people he's going to be in the ring with. And this was another, kind of test for LA Knight, because say what you want about the Miz. I poke fun at the Miz. I hate his stupid face. He just looks like he smells like Parmesan cheese. I don't like him. But he is excellent at his job. And he has found a way to stay relevant. He's found a way to make money, and he always does this. He's always put in these situations, and he always hits a home run. He fears no one. He's intimidated by no one, at least on the microphone. And I think there's very few people that can actually step to him because he keeps his composure. And you got to understand, like, the pressure you got to be under. If you're coming out for an epic promo battle that the fans are like, oh, shit, this is like Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, but promo, and this is going to be good. And if you're on either side of this, you don't want to screw up. You don't want to flub a line. LA Knight flubbed one of his lines tonight. And the amount of pressure you have to be under to not screw up has got to be tremendous in these situations. And I feel like Miz has been doing this so long. He is so used to this that he can't be shaken or rattled. And so this was going to be LA Knight's time to sink or swim. I was a little nervous for LA Knight when he was coming out there. I'm like, okay, you fucked this up. This could be curtains for you, but it was fun. Just the two of them there face to face. And, Miz with his very that's one part of Miz's promo style I actually don't like. I don't like it when he gets overly passionate, when his face is shaking and his eyes are bugging out. I don't really love the overly intense part of the Miz. It's not my favorite. But when he goes, he goes, man. He eviscerated Daniel Bryan in that talking smack segment that one time. He was, very intense. And so when he started going off on LA Knight like that, I've been winning titles for nearly 20 damn years. And what have you been doing? Like, where were you, LA Knight? You got all this talent and you're a star and you're my age or older. How come I haven't seen you before? Where have you been all this time? And he's like, and LA Knight said that he was becoming a dangerous man, and he's going to use The Miz as a stepping stone, and said The Miz's career is in the toilet. And I think that's where the line mistake happened. And then, of course, we get a brawl, and LA Knight is able to get the better of The Miz, hit him with the BFT, and stand tall. And this was fun. This was a really good segment. I'm glad that WWE, it's now happening. LA Knight, they now have a plan for him that has been set in motion. The Battle Royal was the start of it. And I said during the review, I'm like, the Battle Royal means nothing. What the hell does winning the Slim Jim Battle Royal mean? It means dick. If the Andre the Giant Battle Royal didn't mean anything, a meat stick Battle Royal isn't going to mean anything either. But they made it like a big deal tonight. Wade Barrett even said, boy, if you win the Slim Jim Battle Royal, you can walk around and do whatever you want. I'm like, you can? Tell that to Trump. Maybe he'll go out there and try to win some Slim Jim Battle Royal so he can escape prosecution. But this now is happening. And I just hope that it continues, because I think of the Andre Battle Royal. I think of Cesaro body slamming Big Show over the top rope, winning the inaugural Battle Royal. Everybody was calling for him at that point to get a push, remember? So WWE said, okay, here it goes. And then nothing ever panned out. But Cesaro did not have the charisma that LA Knight has, the ability to connect the promos, the audience reaction. He has all of that Cesaro did not. So, imagine if you could put Claudio's ring work into LA Knight's body, you have got yourself a main eventer. So LA Knight being gone all this time, not being in the WWE, Miz, I thought was going to trip him up there, but he was able to hold his own. So now it's just a matter of if WWE is going to follow through with this. I'm glad that whatever plan they have for him now is going into motion. It seems like Miz really is a stepping stone. Miz really does seem to be the welcome mat for any sort of push or return to the company, or if a celebrity comes in that they need to humiliate, like when Snoop dropped the elbow on him at WrestleMania. And you guys can probably name in the chat hundreds of examples over the years of Miz being in some sort of a situation in the ring where a legend or a returning star or somebody on the cusp of a push or somebody like that works with him, usually right out of the gate. He's just the guy that WWE puts out there to trust, and it's why Miz, a lot like Michael Cole, like him or hate him, is just really, really good at the job he's told to do. And I'll give the Miz credit for that. And I don't think the Miz should be going easy on LA Knight either. I think Miz should challenge him. LA Knight, if he wants to be a big star, he's getting this big crowd reaction. You got to make sure that you can handle any situation. And Rock and Austin were very good at that. I can think of very few times where they got confused out there or they kind of lost their train of thought. I lose my train of thought all the fucking time on a podcast. And I can't think of too many instances where that's happened to them. So if I'm the Miz, I'm pushing LA Knight to be the very best he can be on the mic, because I've just in the last couple of weeks seen him trip up his lines a couple of times, which isn't, a career killer by any means, but you got to be able to hold your own. If you're going to command the amount of audience response that you're getting, you have to make sure that you are at the absolute top of your game, verbally, promo wise, and all of that. So this is LA Knight's big test. He's going to be in there with one of the best talkers in the company. And if he can hold his own here and kick the Miz's ass, then move on to something else. And then who knows? But I don't know what you do with him at this point. Maybe I'd put him towards the U.S. title. It really seems the only thing that makes sense. I wouldn't have him challenging Roman right now. He's on SmackDown, so for him to be over here messing with Seth, he's not ready for that either. And I don't think he should be the guy to take the belt off of Gunther. I think a real tough, badass wrestler needs to take the title off of Gunther. A Drew McIntyre, a Sheamus, a Chad Gable, an Ilya Dragunov, somebody like that, not an LA Knight. When I look at LA Knight, I don't look at somebody who can smash you in the mouth and you should fear. I look at someone who can be very entertaining on the mic. He has got a professional wrestler personality to a T, but he's not somebody that I look at as a dominant in-ring 5-star match classic having wrestler. He's just not that guy. So I would not have him be the guy to end Gunther's streak unless he came in and did it in like a shady way. And I think some baby faces can get away with that. Like when the Ultimate Warrior, this would be a good callback to it. You know, the Ultimate Warrior came and shocked Honky Tonk Man, ending his record. You know, maybe you can do some weird sort of match where Gunther's got a championship match and then somebody comes and attacks him and lays him out, and then LA Knight's able to come out and beat him real easily and win the title. And I don't know, something like that could create a moment. But like I said earlier, I'd like Chad Gable to be that guy. So if the Intercontinental title and both world titles really aren't in the cards for LA Knight, but you still want to keep him moving up that rung, then Austin Theory is sitting right there. He's another guy. He's kind of similar to LA Knight, just a lot younger and with a lot less crowd support. He had a big win against John Cena. This was the guy it looked like WWE was going to give their big push to, because he's a remnant of the Vince McMahon days. He was a personal project of Vince's, and then Triple H tried to do a reset on him that initially worked. And Austin Theory was even impressing me for a few weeks there, but then it just died off again. And he doesn't connect. The fans don't have that appreciation for what he can do. You know, and some guys just do come off just too douchey. In real life, Austin Theory might be a perfectly nice fella. He probably is. But, you know, that doucheness comes out on camera, and not in a fun way. You know, it's fun to hate some wrestlers. It's fun to not like them. It's others to have an X-Pac type of heat or a Nia Jax heat where you just don't want to see them. You just rather not see them at all type of thing, where many of the best heels, you never had that thought of. You didn't want these people to go away. You just wanted to hate them. So Theory does not have that. If anything, he's kind of on the fans' bad side right now because he is so painfully fucking boring. So you put that match together after LA Knight is done with the Miz here, and you put LA Knight and Austin Theory for the U.S. title somewhere at the next pay-per-view or whatnot, then that would be the perfect thing to do. We pitched it for SummerSlam, LA Knight beating Theory for the U.S. title. And that's what I would do, because everything else right now, it doesn't seem like he fits, but Theory would be perfect. But they might have plans to have Santos Escobar take the title from Theory. It feels like that's what they've been teasing on TV, so that might come first. I don't know, but beating Austin Theory would be sweet if he did that. So who knows? I mean, if it's Santos's turn for the U.S. title, that kind of leaves LA Knight with nothing to do there, which is why he might be over here on Raw right now messing around with The Miz, because they need to keep him away from Theory over there because Santos is going to be working with him. That's my guess. We'll see. Either way, whatever happens with LA Knight, we've been talking about it. Where's the push? WWE didn't find a place for him at WrestleMania or on TV before Money in the Bank or whatever we were been bitching about lately. He didn't win Money in the Bank. And Triple H said, be patient, it's coming. Well, now it feels like it's here. He had a big win at a pay-per-view, beat 19 guys in a battle royal, and had a big moment with 50,000, 60,000 fans. Now he's shown up on Raw. He's got a feud on TV against one of WWE's top people, former world champion. It's started. So here we go. Sink or swim. Who knows whose fault it's going to be if it doesn't work, if it's going to be WWE's, LA Knight's, some other factor. We really don't know, but this is it. So start paying attention, because LA Knight's success, a lot of that's going to depend on what he does, I think, in the next couple of months. Up next, we had a Viking Raiders Open Challenge. I love them as wrestlers. I like, what's her name? Valhalla. I forgot her name now. Sarah Logan. I like her, and I like Eric and Ivar and stuff, but the Viking Raiders and the goofy name changes they did with the team and all of that, and this medieval stuff, I'm just not a fan of, like, people who are into, like, reenacting Viking stuff. It's just a strange hobby to me. I don't find it interesting. So their whole gimmick is just not interesting to me. And they had some sort of an open challenge here, and it turned out to be the New Day. The New Day returns, just Kofi and Xavier. They've been on the shelf for about 5 months, or I think Kofi has. And now they are back. And they win this match against the Viking Raiders. It was fun. It was great to see the New Day back. I don't know what to make of the New Day's future at this point. I think they're there as a novelty. kind of sad news to report with Big E, where he said recently, and I didn't write down where this was said, this might have been SummerSlam weekend or some sort of interview that he did, where he did say that as of right now, the doctors are advising him not to wrestle again. And doctors have also advised Edge, Lita, Brian Danielson, to all not wrestle again, and they all did. So it's definitely not completely the end, but it is very sad that Big E, at 37 years old, probably will not be wrestling ever again in a full-time capacity. If he decides to come back in a couple of years and his doctors kind of give him the okay and he can come in and work limited, it almost feels like that's the best case scenario at this point, and that's just extremely sad. But I'll tell you what, nobody has been able to handle a situation better than Big E. This has just been a really unfortunate situation that happened to him. He has remained positive throughout the whole thing. He blames no one. He has been in good spirits. I'm sure internally there's plenty of disappointment, but the way he has just handled himself and coped through this whole thing has just been tremendous. Everybody should take a page from Big E, when it comes to just dealing with unfortunate things, because he's remained incredibly positive through all of it. And I feel so bad that this could actually be the end for him. And it's sad because it's unfair. It's just unfair, and unfair things happen in this world. I feel bad. I feel bad for Ridge Holland that's got to live for this, or live with this and carry this guilt around. I'm sure Big E has let it be known and made him aware that he doesn't blame him and it's not his fault or whatever, but you still have to live with that, knowing that you might have ended somebody's career. And if Big E can come back to TV in some way, I think he would be a great personality, ambassador, commentator, coach, depending on what Big E wants to do. If he wants to remain in WWE, I feel like Big E would have a job for life. They would let him do anything he wants there. So it just kind of depends. But if this is in fact the end for Big E, just all the best to him. Such a shame that it ended that way for him. But New Day are back. They're on Raw. I don't know how you're going to use them other than just having them be how they always were. I don't know if you need to get them in a better feud, or if you can add a twist to the team now that Big E could be gone. Or, I mean, maybe, the LOD once jumped the shark and brought in Draws. Maybe New Day does the same thing. Maybe Kofi and Xavier bring somebody into the New Day to give them the New Day rub, kind of be a new member or something. I don't know if you do that. I don't really know what you do with the New Day at this point. I'd like to see Xavier get some of the singles accolades that he's been pining for throughout his career. He deserves that. He's great. I think with his promo ability and his look and his wrestling ability, he could easily be a title contender for sure. But he never really got put on that path. And so now I don't even know if there's time for him to do any of that. But, maybe they could do something like that if they split them. I don't really know. Don't know what the future holds. But what I don't want to see is just for them to tread water, do the same stuff every week that doesn't really have any meaning. They're great pieces of talent. Kofi and Xavier are fantastic. Use them and just don't have them just come out doing redundant nonsense every week. So we will see. And that leaves us with the main event. Cody Rhodes, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Seth Rollins teaming up to take on the Judgment Day, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and Dom Dom. Now, when Judgment Day is coming to the ring, Raquel Rodriguez shows up. She was shown backstage earlier where the doctors were telling her that she's still not cleared to face Rhea Ripley. She can't get back in the ring yet, but she can do run-ins, and she came and attacked Rhea Ripley and took her out prior to the match. The match goes about 20 minutes, maybe about 17 minutes. And then you have, as the match starts breaking down and the heels are cheating, you have Sami Zayn coming out to help out because I think Ripley is causing some commotion. He's out there. Cody Rhodes is able to catch Finn Balor in the crossroads in the middle of the ring and pin him for the victory. And the babyfaces got the win. They were really playing up the dissension between Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins based on what we saw in the opening segment. There are some problems there. They don't really like each other, and it feels like they're starting to come face to face, but they were able to coexist in this match. And just when the show is about to go off the air, and I'm even thinking it's over, that's when we get the Nakamura turn, because it took a while. I'm like, well, maybe we're not going to get the Nakamura turn. I sniffed it out earlier, but I was starting to think maybe it's not going to happen. And boom, Barrett, the very last minute, Nakamura turns on Seth. Cody's confused. And now maybe Nakamura is going to get a championship match at Payback, or we get a triple threat, which might actually be better, because that way you still keep that big one-on-one match between Cody and Seth that at some point we're going to have to get again. Maybe you can hold that off for a bigger night, and then you do a triple threat, and then maybe that's where Damian Priest comes and cashes in, something like that. We'll have to see. But if Damian Priest cashes in, again, I don't know what Cody Rhodes will do after that, but we will see what they announced for Payback. But it does look like we have a pretty good card set up for Payback based on what we saw tonight. And the other half of the card will probably be set up on SmackDown. So there you go. There's your Raw in a nutshell. We'll talk a little bit about Collision and All In here in just a second, but I have not checked in with the chat in a while, so we'll do that. You guys can keep smashing that thumbs up button for me. I would appreciate it. I'm going to scroll up a little bit and start knocking out the supers that I owe you. All right, we are back to Mark again. Put Chelsea Green with Maxine Dupree. Zane, I don't know. Maxine's kind of fun as a babyface. I don't want to see her as an obnoxious heel, because she's really fun. She reminds me of the Chase U girl on NXT. Just like that energy. She's just got a lot of energy. And the best way to describe her is fun. And Chelsea's fun too, just in a different way. I'm thinking Nia Jax could be with Chelsea. But Mark has got two more. Thank you, dude. Cora Jade would make a great partner for Chelsea. That's true. She's kind of like that too, huh? Yeah, Cora Jade would work if they did want to call somebody up from NXT. But then again, Sonya was kind of the more established of the two, and Chelsea just kind of came back, and she's relatively new in the company. So now you're bringing someone even less established than Chelsea. It feels like bringing in Nia Jax, somebody that has had some championships and stuff, makes the team stronger. But maybe chemistry-wise, Cora Jade and Chelsea would probably do pretty well. Spaz with 10 more. Thank you so much, man. Tag division has Candice and Indy the way. I'd love to see them win it. Alba and Isla Dawn, thank you. Kaden and Katana, Damage Control, and rumors of Kyrie coming back to be the Kabuki Warriors with Asuka. They do have options. I mean, that is true. They do have teams, but they're still not doing anything with the tag team division, or they haven't up until recently. But yeah, Candice and Indy are a team, although I haven't seen Indy Hartwell even wrestle on Raw yet. Kaden and Katana we've seen a few times. Alba and Isla came up, it felt like, just to drop the titles. And what the hell have they done since? Have they been on TV since they dropped the titles? Maybe. I don't remember them being. And of course, Damage Control as well. Now, if Kyrie did come back and reform the Kabuki Warriors, sans Paige, they might, that would actually be a fun reunion. So with everything there, with what they have to work with, there is a chance for the tag team titles to survive. But man, they have just been through some shit. My God, these tag team titles have been forfeited. They've been walked out on. Just everything that has happened with these championships. It's almost like it'd be nice if there was a way to reset them somehow. Just throw them in the shitter, recreate new championships, complete new belt design, and just try again. Start from scratch. Chris Ludek, appreciate 5 more from you. I read WWE isn't going to push Riddle because of all of his personal problems. I'm a fan of his, but he's his own worst enemy. Yeah, it kind of feels like that. I think Riddle, they can have him on TV to be there. But I don't think they're going to put any trust behind him because of everything that's been going on. And he's been in the company now for 5 years. 5 years Riddle's been there. I know he signed in 2018, so that's a long time. And he still has plenty of career ahead of him. But yeah, it felt like maybe a year ago, maybe even 2 years ago, he was maybe on the radar to be, one of their next big stars. But yeah, just personal problems. Just some guys are like that, He would have fit in great in the 90s, man. Who knows what he would have been up to back then. Reese Jones, thank you for the $5, man. The India show is set for Friday, September 8th. They haven't confirmed if it will air on the network or if it's just a live event for the Indian crowd. Thank you. I wasn't sure about that either. I was just thinking if they did have some big event scheduled and it was going to be on Peacock, but I was thinking that came way later than September 8th, and September 8th is the actual day of the Honky Tonk Man record. So it would probably have to be somewhere else then. But yeah, I still want Gable. He would be my pick to take the IC title off of Gunther after losing to him first, coming back and beating him in a rematch. So yeah, maybe the India show wouldn't work, but some other show might. We'll see. But thank you for that information, Reese Jones. And by the way, I forgot to shout out my good friend K-Dog's Kennel, who might still be in the chat somewhere. The other day, I got something pretty awesome in my P.O. box. Now, he tried to mail me something a couple of months ago, and of course, like an idiot, I had one digit wrong on my P.O. box that's listed on my YouTube channel, and I had a digit wrong, so he tried to mail this, and of course, it didn't get delivered, and they sent it back, and it got lost, and it took forever to locate it. But he was very kind because, as most of you know, last December, I had to put my beloved pet Bub down, who was with me for many years. He was my best friend, and it was all a very sad situation. And I kind of went through it with you guys and shared the experience with you guys. And you were all very, very generous and gracious, and told me to take my time coming back and all of that, which I did. But Kevin had this made, this little stone, this little commemorative stone here, which is just super nice. Nice little message on the bottom there with his photo. And this thing weighs a good amount too. This is a nice heavy kind of commemorative stone. Very cool. This will go up in my on my shelf there with all my Bub paraphernalia. He's in his little I've got his ashes and his little carrying case and all that stuff. So Kevin, thank you so much for sending me that. Sorry that it took so long to get it, and I'm sorry that I kind of screwed up. This whole thing was my fault, but yet he was still able to get to the bottom of it, and he got it sent out to me, and I think that is awesome, Kevin. So as always, thank you very much for that, and that's why my fans are awesome. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for all you do, for all you donate, for all the support you show on the channel. It really, really means a lot. Thanks to all of you, really, but especially thank you to K-Dog's Kennel. You are the man and one of the best listeners we have up in here. But I think we need to talk a little bit about AEW as well. I talked a lot. My plan after Raw was to talk about the Roman Reigns Bloodline story and whether or not it has jumped the shark. But somebody kind of asked that in an earlier super chat, so we covered it in detail earlier. And my opinion is that, yes, I do think, at least from where we sit right now, that they might have made a mistake because I don't know if this is what the fans necessarily want for this to be drug out. But I am going to give WWE the benefit of the doubt because so far all year long, the Bloodline story has been incredible. You know, it's always come through. I think maybe lately, you know, even at Money in the Bank or after Money in the Bank, I think some fans feel like, oh, maybe it's starting to get a little weaker or it's weakening a little bit. But for the most part, the Bloodline story is still delivering in a big way. The segments are fantastic on TV. And we always have been able to trust the Bloodline storyline stuff. So because of all of the great work they've been doing, I'm not going to turn my back on it like an asshole just because one match I didn't get the outcome that I wanted, which is what happened at WrestleMania 39. You know, I'm not going to let that ruin the whole thing for me. I'm going to let them continue. Okay, how can you make it up to me? What are you going to do? Because if you're just dragging it out, then that's going to piss me off. But if there's something bigger at play here, or if you have a bigger trick up your sleeve, or if you have another direction to the storyline that's going to make it all that much better, or breathe more life to it, or add shelf life to it, or whatever, then by all means, please hit us with it on Friday. I would like to see it. But now you're moving into Jimmy and Jay. Some fans aren't sure how they feel about that, but you're not going to really be able to determine that until after you at least see their first segment together and when WWE explains and makes this whole thing make sense. And now you've got the Usos separated, I guess, as single stars, which I don't know what that means either. Solo Sikoa is on the verge of probably turning on Roman Reigns as well. We don't know if we're even going to have a bloodline in its current form for much longer, or if there's always going to be an odd man out or two odd men out. We don't know. So I'll be interested to see what they do on SmackDown. Roman Reigns is scheduled for Friday night, so we will see what they do. Now, some of the talent in WWE isn't too thrilled with how much time the Bloodline and Roman Reigns is getting on TV. Now, Sheamus did an interview, I think, with it was the Daily Star in the UK, and he kind of complained a little bit about some of the creative they've had for him after Clash at the Castle. You know, the great match he had with Gunther. I thought they were putting him on track to win the Intercontinental Championship myself. I predicted him to win the Intercontinental Championship in my WrestleMania predictions video. I thought that's what they were going to do, but it turned out to be Gunther. They've been rolling with him, and I'm fine with that decision. But Sheamus was really turning some heads in those kick-ass battles that he had with Gunther. And that would have been a great blow-off. And he kind of complained that after Clash at the Castle, that great match with Gunther that he had no problem losing, you know, he kind of lost momentum after that. He didn't really like the War Games match either, probably because he wasn't a part of that big, you know, final story. And he also said that he wants to retire with the Intercontinental title. That's still a championship that he has not won. He's never won. All the championships in the years he's been in WWE, that's one title that's eluded him. It's always been a goal, and WWE didn't give it to him this year when it felt like this was his best chance ever to win it. So now maybe, you know, he is getting close to, I think, talking about retirement. He's in his 40s. Sheamus is ageless. He looks the same as he did when he debuted, but he probably is going to have to think about maybe retiring soon. And what a way to go out if he was actually able to retire as the Intercontinental Champion. And maybe Sheamus can be the guy to end Gunther's streak. But, you know, he already got that shot a year ago and at WrestleMania. I think Gable would be way more fun, but maybe that's still the plan for Sheamus. Who knows? But at some point, I think WWE should let Sheamus win the Intercontinental title. I just don't know when that's going to be. But Sheamus is in a position too. He's been around the company for a long time. He doesn't care. He gives zero Fs. He'll say whatever he wants. He has a history with the guy in charge of creative right now. They've had matches together and shit like that. So he is confident enough to where he can say things without knowing that it's probably not going to get him too much heat. Because at this point, he's already made his money. He's had his career. Anything he does now is probably just going to be extra anyway. So, you know, what does he have to lose? He's kind of in the driver's seat. And I always like it when wrestlers get to the point in their career where they can be in the driver's seat, where they don't have to be fearful of their job. I mean, it's rare. I think only 2% of wrestlers make it to this point to where you can really be bulletproof. And I think Sheamus is one of those guys that, you know, aside from doing something actually wrong, breaking a law or breaking company policy or something like that, running his mouth isn't going to get him in any sort of real hot water. And it will be a way for him to voice his disapproval. You know, SmackDown's only a 2-hour show. You know, it's kind of crazy that that's where the Bloodline is. You know, that story takes up so much time. And what does Raw have too much of? Time. The Bloodline is where all this shit should be playing out, because you could have these 30-minute, 45-minute, 1-hour-long Bloodline segments and still have 2 hours of wrestling left. The Bloodline is where it should be, you know, and then you can and then Raw should be 2 hours. But it's all backwards. It's all backwards, man. So, but where'd I go? So yeah, the Bloodline stuff we will see on Friday, what it leads to. But yeah, I'm kind of disappointed how it went, because it's not like we didn't think Jay was going to win. Nobody really did. It's not like the Cody loss. Like, Cody loss shocked us because we thought Cody was going to win. And so that kind of upset some people. But the Jay loss was upsetting for a different reason, because it was just kind of a finish we didn't want to see. Every single one of Roman's matches, it's the same thing. It's interference, and he survives. We've just been through it so many damn times now, and the fans are kind of getting sick of it. There's a chance, possibly, that on Friday we could get some sort of a weird swerve with the family, because the tribal combat rules, there were actual rules to them. And I saw something online where it said that there can't be any interference until the match is over or something like that. So there might have been some rules broken, you know, some vows broken, some sacred rules broken in the tribal combat, to where the family steps forward and said, Roman, you know, you kind of disqualified yourself as the tribal chief because what you did went against tribal policy or whatever. They might throw some shit like that at us on Friday. We don't know, but if Roman's going to be on the show, I think he's going to have a Payback match. I don't know, but it's probably just going to be Jay and Jimmy Uso at Payback. We will see. We will see. G Coalition brother, of course, Jey Uso wasn't going to beat Roman. Jimmy turning, though, Jimmy's reasoning for turning on his brother and whether he goes back to Roman's side or is acting on his own is going to be key. Yeah, that's the one thing about it, because as a lot of people have pointed out, Jimmy might not have been necessarily siding with Roman. He might have just been trying to hurt Jay. It might not have been about picking a side. It might be about he wanted to hurt his brother. He wanted to cost his brother the championship. It has nothing to do with Roman at all. So yeah, Jimmy being on his own, I think, is probably what they need to do there, because then him falling back in line with Roman, you'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I think kind of him being on his own, making this decision on his own is what they should do. Because I mean, it's going to be hard to ever get the Usos, and that's the one thing, that's one swerve we can rule out. We can rule out that Jimmy was just pretending at SummerSlam because he wouldn't have cost his brother the championship. His brother had it won. So he definitely cost him. This was not a ruse of any kind, and they're not going to swerve Roman on Friday. So he definitely turned, and it's going to be hard to get these brothers back together now after something like that, especially if Jay never wins a world championship. They're always going to have that between them. Even if they reunite, like, you cost me the world championship, you asshole. Don't think I haven't forgot. We got the holidays coming up. Man, it's going to be a bad, bad Thanksgiving in the Usi household, man, I tell you. But anyway, the Lufisto stuff, Lufisto AEW issues. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I don't want to get too much into detail because this was a long interview. And there's a lot to look at. There's so many different examples and a lot of very specific complaints that Lufisto had. And she's been around, I don't know much about her other than she's been around the indies for about 20 years. And she is a veteran. And apparently she had a really unpleasant experience in AEW. She did an interview, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday of last week, with Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful. And it was about an hour long. And she, among other things, detailed an appearance she made there and a match she had about a year and a half ago where she showed up to potentially work a dark match and to talk to Tony Khan about becoming a coach for AEW. And then on the day that she gets there, she details all these different little instances where she's been kind of given the runaround. QT tells her to go around, walk around, mingle. Tony Khan's too busy. Tony's busy. She could never find time to talk to him. She said she had good experiences with Dustin Rhodes, but then she walked in on a conversation between Dustin and Ruby where they both shut up right away, and it was clear that they were talking about her. And then after that, Dustin was rude to her. And then like, oh my God. And then at gym class, like I tried to sit next to Tracy, and then Tracy's like, because I heard that you kissed Kyler. And then, it's just like, oh my God. So it's just a lot of this stuff of, and now they're talking shit about me. She talked about the talent meetings to discuss Thunder Rosa, which she called a meeting to shoot on Thunder Rosa, but this was actually the meeting that Thunder Rosa, I think, called herself, and she apologized, and apparently the meeting was pretty well received, and it didn't appear to be the women were going to try to agree to, kind of get along for the good of the business type of thing. And she mentioned some other meeting that was supposed to happen to talk about Britt Baker and her crew, because Britt Baker's got a clique, and she's in good with the owner. And there's a lot of politicking going on, and all of these different descriptions of what went on that day, and specifically what went on with Ruby Soho and Dustin. And this dates back to a match that Lufisto and Ruby Soho had way back in the day on the indie scene, where they had a couple of matches. One went well, one didn't go so good. And there was some talk of maybe Ruby blaming her for injuring her, or just some typical wrestling drama. And nothing too out of the ordinary, but apparently whatever happened a year and a half ago was really, really pissed Lufisto off. This all started, by the way, because of a tweet she sent out, kind of insinuating that there's some major politicking BS going on in AEW's women's locker room. And then the interview happened, and she really did not paint the women's locker room in a good light at all. Now, we've already heard that they've had some problems back there, the Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker stuff. A few other instances of just the women not getting along. Again, these problems are not exclusive to AEW. And that's where you can really see the tribalness come out in so many fans, is the fans, that don't like AEW were just very quick to sprout a gigantic erection and start whacking off over this. You see, it's a fucking mess there. Now, I have no doubt AEW has problems in their locker room, no doubt. But we have seen these type of problems plenty of times throughout wrestling's history, and this is nothing really that crazy. However, if anything here that Lufisto was saying was true, and a lot of these details are pretty specific, and I don't know if she's really known to be a pathological liar or anything like that. She seems to be pretty well respected, and some of the things she was saying specifically about some of these people, it would be really weird for her to make that stuff up. So I have no doubt that a lot of what she said probably did happen, and a lot of what she said probably is true. The other side of that coin is this is somebody that's never had a contract with a major promotion. I don't think, has she been in Impact? I can't remember, but we know she hasn't been in WWE or AEW. And what's the reason for that? Why did she never get some sort of a contract if she's so capable? Now, a couple of days went by, and then it was on Friday. And I remember this on Friday. It was so funny because I was heading into work, and I was still sitting in my car, looking at my phone. I hadn't gotten out of the car yet. And I think I pulled up Twitter, and I saw that the AEW talent, all within about a 5-minute span, it seemed like, started tweeting out aggressive defenses of the AEW locker room, like all at once. And it was pretty obvious that some memo was sent out, or Tony Khan gave the green light to, okay, go out there and rip this woman one. And they all did. MJF and Britt Baker and others were all tweeting out in unison. And when you look at the timestamps of all the tweets, they were all at the same time. So it probably, but AEW's new. They haven't learned, some of these little things you can do to not make it so obvious. They need a better social media manager or something. Hey, guys, spread your shit out. But it looked like the AEW locker room was really pissed about that, because once they got the green light to tweet, they all tweeted at the same time. So they were pretty pissed off about the picture that Lufisto painted of the AEW locker room and not making them look good at all. But at the end of the day, what this really sounds like to me is that Lufisto had a bad experience backstage at a show and hasn't let it go. Was she done wrong? Maybe. Was there politicking done? Maybe. MJF had a pretty detailed tweet where he said, maybe if you haven't signed a contract with a major company, maybe that's because you're delusional or you're not talented enough or you have a bad attitude or whatever, but basically listed all of the reasons that a talented veteran wouldn't get a job with a major company, listed the 5 reasons why that wouldn't be, and basically let you take your pick which one it is with her. So I think there's probably truths on both sides. I think that Lufisto definitely wouldn't be naming all these specifics here and these be complete 100% lies. I thought it was really shitty of a lot of fans to, of course, attack her. The tribals, the AEW stands, that are just, coming after her. You're fat, you're ugly, kill yourself, that type of stuff, which is what she got, and then of course the AEW haters are all excited about it because it doesn't matter if what she's saying is true or not. They're going to believe this because what people want to be true and what is true are usually 2 different things. So, they're going to jump on that. And the whole thing was really made into a mess online. Now with Lufisto, I don't know her, I have no idea, what her reputation is like, but I think it would be weird for her to go out there and lie about this stuff, but at the same time, the AEW locker room is trying to make the adjustments and make improvements in their morale and how people are getting along. I really want them to, because toxicity, I've been in restaurant business my whole life. I've been lucky enough to be around really good staffs, but there have been a couple of little pockets throughout my life where we have had morale down in various places that I've worked or ran, to where just the staff, our roster wasn't very good. We had a couple of bad apples that was, kind of, souring the batch, so to speak, and had to deal with some of these like petty arguments, these problems, and I had 2 girls that couldn't get along. And I remember when I was listening to what the issue was, I was almost like baffled. I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about here? What are you, 5? This is not 8th grade. You're grown ass women. We're professionals here, so I basically said, figure it out. You're both fired. I had no time for it at all because it was ridiculous. It wasn't even a real issue. No wrong was really done. It was just petty, catty shit, and it's not just the women. Men have it too. How many times have we heard about politics on the men's side of things? This is not a women's exclusive problem, and this is not an AEW exclusive problem. This is in every locker room, in every promotion, in the world, in history, ever. I know the AEW haters like to pretend that AEW is the only company that had these problems, but guess what? That's not accurate. Every company has these problems because it's a competitive environment. It's a competitive nature. There's TV times and championships and money and fame and success that everybody's trying to vie for. So naturally, you're going to have some people not wanting to see others succeed, holding others down. If Ruby Soho has some bad taste in her mouth from Lufisto from years ago, does she have enough stroke in that company to actually politically sabotage somebody else? If she does, and she used that ability to sabotage somebody, that's fucked up. Whatever your problems are with Lufisto, you shouldn't prevent her from getting a job. Let her come in and make her own mistakes and sink or swim. But you shouldn't be affecting that. So if any of that's true, that's really shitty of Ruby. But Ruby, she lost in both Owen finals. She's never won a championship in the company. Tony did pay for some theme music for her. But other than that, where does she rank on the women's roster? She doesn't have the power or pull, I would think, backstage that a Britt Baker does. And Britt Baker was the first name that all the fans jumped on because Britt already kind of has that reputation, sort of, because of what we heard about the Thunder Rosa stuff. So fans, of course, just naturally, if they hear anything negative about AEW, what are they going to do? They're going to go to the one person that they are just programmed to go to and give shit on Britt Baker. And this didn't even involve her. She had nothing to do with this. So Britt is really, her hands are clean of this one, whatever's going on here. But I guess Lufisto did say that Britt does have a clique, and there have been some women that have gotten together to talk about them. But I don't know. I don't know how you handle this. I mean, wrestling locker rooms have evolved throughout the years that, is one promoter really enough? In WWE, I know you have members of management that are watching you and stuff like that. Maybe Tony Khan needs just some more management, some people there in the environment of the women's locker room that the women know, don't be a petty asshole in front of this person because it'll get back to Tony or whatever. Maybe they need some more authority in place there just to make sure, cooler heads prevail. But everybody came out in defense of the locker room, said that it's a great environment. It's very supportive. Everybody is, they're encouraging each other and wants everyone to succeed. That's what they're all claiming, but it also felt like really crazy timing, like one big mass PR damage control release, all happening at once there on Friday, this tidal wave of damage control in AEW. So Lufisto did not make AEW look great. AEW didn't look great when they threw all of their defenses out at once. The talent should have been texting each other. I'm going to tweet mine now. You wait an hour, tweet yours. Something like that. A little more organization probably would have benefited them there because it made it way, way, way too obvious. So I no real dog in this fight. The only thing I'll say is that if anything was definitively done to Lufisto to keep her from getting a contract there, then I do feel bad. I think that's fucked up. Like, for example, had none of this political bullshit happened that day, and Lufisto was able to get a clear path to Tony Khan, sit down and have a meeting with him, and she walked out of there with a job that night. If that would have happened, then I feel bad for her. But would it have? We just talked about how, she's never had a contract anywhere else. And, is she really going to offer enough for Tony Khan to sign her? Probably. She talked about the match she had with Sky Blue that night. Sky Blue was like 20 years old at the time. So there's plenty of women there who are inexperienced that have contracts, actual contracts. So she may have gotten one, but maybe because of past relationships that she's had with Ruby Soho or anybody else in the company or Dustin Rhodes or whatever, anybody else now kind of going and getting in Tony Khan's ear and saying, hey, don't hire this one. I don't think she'd fit. We don't like her, whatever. I don't know what, if Tony Khan listens to that or says, why don't you let me talk to her and I'll determine if I want to hire her. I don't know. We don't know, what goes on there behind the scenes and how much influence talent really, really has. So I don't know. It's one of those situations where you're never really going to truly know who to believe. Every sort of confrontation or issue that takes place behind the scenes, there's always two stories. And it happens in the women's locker room, it happens in the men's locker room. And I don't think we've really had too many people come out in an hour-long interview and detail so much stuff. You have to be really, really disgruntled to do that. So that's why I believe that whatever happened to her that day, she's not making this shit up. You don't speak with this type of you know with this type of specific examples, and you're making it all up. So it's unfortunate, and doesn't look good for anybody. And it's another one of those issues that we have heard about in AEW. So between the problems that they've had with the women, with Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, and now Ruby and Lufisto, and then of course Brawl Out and Punk and the Elite, it's amazing that this company is still actually running fairly well. Collision is a fantastic show on Saturdays. Dynamites are still great. Their pay-per-views deliver. Wrestlers still want to work there. They still have a great group of talent, legends, highly respected people working in the company that don't seem to be too turned off by all this stuff. So imagine if they do get on the same page and they do have like a WWE 1998 level of morale in their company, where they see that they're starting to gain some ground on the competition, and let's all band together. If they can ever get that back, they could be unstoppable. But a lot of these things can slow them down, and that petty high school drama, I cannot stand. I cannot stand those in work environments. It's crazy that once we graduate and we leave school and we become adults, that this type of stupid shit can still happen. It happens in office jobs. Everywhere you guys work probably happens, whether you manage a grocery store, or if you are in a law firm, or if you're in an office building, or if you work in a place like the Office movie, or if you're in a restaurant like me. Anywhere, I'm sure you deal with situations like this where you have this really just kind of childish pettiness, behavior or problems or issues that come up between employees or talent. And it's just part of life. It's what we all go through. Families go through it. So with this, it's just a little bit unfortunate. And I think AEW, hopefully they don't lack self-awareness here, and they see that maybe Tony Khan needs to have a meeting or something and say, hey, at least for a little while, can we try not to have any fights? Because we need to kind of repair this image that the public has of us, of our locker room. So it needs to be all positive all the time. And you need to give me a good 2 years of that, so this shit goes away. And then people forget that we've got issues, and keep everybody on the same page. Can you do that for me? If not, I'm fining all of you $50,000. Something like that. I don't know. Collision on Saturday was a pretty good show, even though it was running head to head with SummerSlam. Now the ratings, I think they did in the 300,000s. They were down 47%, which can be expected. This was a good test, and they were up against one of WWE's biggest pay-per-views. So I think that number will get better when they're up against a Payback or something else. But of course, they weren't going to pull that great of a number during SummerSlam. We had it on during the live reaction, and we were watching FTR successfully retain their tag team championships over Big Bill and Brian Cage. And after the match, FTR called out the Young Bucks, challenged the Young Bucks. So it sounds like we're going to get FTR and the Young Bucks, the rubber match, because I think they're 1-1 at All In. This Wednesday, the Young Bucks are going to face the Hardys again, the Hardy Boys. So it's going to be the Bucks and the Hardys. I would assume the Bucks are going to win that match. I was at Double or Nothing in 2022. The Hardys won that one. So I think the Bucks will win here. Obviously, they'll beat the Hardys, and then after the match, they should agree or probably accept the challenge of FTR, and that match is going to be set for All In. That's a pretty good one. So that's a Punk camp against Elite camp. So that's something, that's some step forward. I was still kind of holding out hope that maybe Punk could do something with Kenny Omega, because I don't think he really truly had an issue with Kenny. I think it was more Hangman Page. So maybe Punk and Hangman again, but I don't know. Their first match wasn't great. I don't think it would really work out between them. But it doesn't look like Punk working with any Elite members is even really possible, because he's going to be probably facing Samoa Joe, who, after he beat Serpentico in 10 seconds, called him out on Collision on Saturday. So what I would like to see, if Punk and Joe are now going to have another match, and that's going to be in Wembley. That's pretty cool for the two of them who have had, that history. But one other step forward towards doing something with Punk and the Elite is that when you think about FTR versus the Young Bucks, think about this match, guys, for Wembley Stadium. Young Bucks, FTR, rubber match, AEW Tag Team Championships on the line, biggest show in company history, 80,000 people. Who do you put over? Who do you put over? Bucks just re-signed. They're EVPs, so, they might get the nod, you would think. How do you even decide that if you're Tony Khan? To me, there's only one way out of it. CM Punk interferes and costs the Bucks the match and helps FTR retain. He costs those counterfeit Bucks the match. That's the only finish you do. That's the only finish you do, because that will get a lot of people talking, and that'll be a big part of the show. And then CM Punk can go get choked out later by Samoa Joe. I think he might get choked out by Samoa Joe because he beat Samoa Joe last time. And so maybe the Bucks come out and cost him or something like that. Something like that. I don't know. Or maybe Hangman comes out and slaps Punk across the face and then Joe chokes him out. Some sort of a finish like that. But if Tony Khan needs a way to get out of FTR and the Young Bucks without having a clean winner or loser here, CM Punk showing up would be huge. Imagine him coming out during that match in front of that crowd. They'd go apeshit, hit Matt Jackson with a GTS or something, and then boom, right into the shatter machine. FTR retains. Bucks are pissed. All Tony Khan has to do is get these guys on the same page. And maybe this is the beginning of that happening. I'd like to see it. But CM Punk, incidentally, had a match on Collision for his real World's Championship against Ricky Starks. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, random-ass name out of nowhere. But this was in South Carolina, where Ricky the Dragon Steamboat did have, a big following and worked a lot back in the day. So kind of his territory. And he was going to be on the outside of the ring as an enforcer. The finish saw, I think the referee got knocked down or something. Starks is trying to pin CM Punk with his feet on the ropes. Steamboat pushes his feet off. He gets pissed. Punk then rolls up Ricky Starks, and Steamboat comes in the ring to count the 3. So Punk gets the win. And after the match, Ricky Starks attacks Ricky Steamboat. So Steamboat gets beat up. Punk then runs back to try to save him. Of course, they're pissed. This is just a way to get heel heat for Ricky Starks. I don't think Ricky Steamboat's going to come back and do anything. He might make another appearance or something, but I don't think it's not 2009, when he was having that match with Jericho and he looked pretty damn good. He worked WrestleMania and then he worked the pay-per-view after, right? And he was great. He was great in that. Ricky Steamboat's one of my favorites of all time. Like I said, I'm still pissed about Ricky Steamboat losing the Intercontinental title to the Honky Tonk Man. And incidentally, on Saturday when we were watching SummerSlam together, we were watching the Gunther and Drew McIntyre match. That was going head-to-head with the CM Punk and Ricky Starks match. So it was funny seeing Gunther about to beat Honky's record. Honky, the guy who beat Steamboat on the other TV, just kind of a cool little connection there I thought was awesome. So for All In, it's looking like right now MJF and Adam Cole for the World Championship, FTR and the Young Bucks, and CM Punk versus Samoa Joe. What am I missing? Are there any other matches? What are they going to do with... do they have Statlander kind of set for anybody? Toni Storm, by the way, had a great, fun promo on Collision after losing her AEW Women's title on Wednesday to Hikaru Shida. She kind of went a little crazy there, and she made the most of that interview opportunity. She was great. So maybe she gets some sort of a rematch against Shida for the title. I don't know at all in what you do there. I'm hoping that Britt Baker doesn't win it. We don't know what's going to happen there either. So let me know what other matches you think they could put on All In for us. And that's pretty much the end of my notes too. So a good 2-hour podcast here. So I'll hang out here in the chat. Anything else you guys want to talk about, let me know. And that's right, Rob Strickland. Tomorrow night, we have Marty Jannetty, the season finale of Dark Side of the Ring. I believe Marty is the final episode, right? And Marty is something, man. I can't even imagine what this episode is going to be like. I know Marty is a part of it. Party Marty. Back when I was on Facebook, I remember I friend requested Marty Jannetty, and he accepted my friend request. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I get to be friends with Marty Jannetty. And we even exchanged a couple of words once or twice and all of that. And then next thing you know, I start reading his posts and seeing what he's posting. And I'm like, and I quickly became not even amused, like disgusted, like offended. I was like, this guy's a fucking mess. He's an absolute mess. He's not even a fun mess. He's not even like funny. He's gross. He's perverted, possibly doing illegal things. And he brags about these things like he's 19 years old. This is somebody who's in his 50s or 60s or however the whole hell old Marty Jannetty is now. And obviously he's on drugs and crack and whatever the fuck else. But the things that he was posting were so batshit insane that I used to post them on Twitter. I'm like, look at what this shithead is saying now, or look what he's saying now. And then finally I just abandoned Facebook, and I'm sure he's still there doing these ridiculous things and posting these horrible things and posting a girl who he hooked up with, but then thought it might be his daughter. Like just really, really, really messed up stuff, like crazy shit. And, you know, spelling all his words with Z's at the end. He's a fucking idiot. He's a fucking idiot. An idiot. That's the only way to describe him. And so I've always just shook my head at Marty, like, just what a fucking, like, how is this guy still alive with the amount of partying that he's still doing? You know, and it's so sad because I liked Marty back in the Midnight Rockers and Rockers days. I thought Marty was awesome. And I think in a real fight, I think him and Sean did get in a fight one time, and Marty was pretty tough. You know, if Sean ever did fight Marty, Marty would beat the fuck out of him. I'm convinced. But I think Marty did actually once beat him up. But Marty just partied so hard and so ridiculously to where he just makes a fool of himself on social media, just posting the most bizarre stuff. Somehow was kept out of jail for that. I'm sure he's got a couple of arrests, I have no doubt, but I don't even recall him really getting thrown in jail a lot. It's not even like he's somehow avoiding like legal trouble. It's not like he's Tammy Sitch. You know, he's not getting behind the wheel and taking the lives of innocent people because, you know, he's a scumbag partier. You know, he's somehow doing all of this and somehow functioning without having any legal troubles, at least from what I have seen recently. He's just crazy. He's just crazy is all the only way to describe him. So now they're doing a Dark Side of the Ring episode, and I think he's going to be on it. And it's funny because his story is not done being told yet. You know, he might not have even seen its darkest moment yet. That might still be to come, and we're already doing a Dark Side of the Ring on him. So he's going to be an interesting one, but I have very little respect, none really, actually. I have no respect whatsoever for Marty Jannetty as a human being. Zero respect. I think he's completely trashed his life. I think he should have cleaned himself up by now, and he is weak and stupid. But I guess he's having his fun. I just, as if you cannot tell, in case you can't tell, I should say, Greg is not a Marty fan. So we'll see tomorrow what this shit show of an episode is going to be like. I'm hoping it'll be kind of funny because so many of the episodes have been sad, but I don't think this episode is going to leave you feeling great when it's over. You know, unless Marty reveals that he's all clean and sober now, but I don't think he is. I think he's still very much involved in what he's doing, and we'll see. Tomorrow should be interesting. We'll talk about it this week. I'm not sure when the next podcast will be. We'll probably try to come up here maybe actually on Saturday. No, I think I want to do a Saturday night's main event. You guys need to stay subscribed because tomorrow you should start seeing some links pop up. I got to figure out a watch along for this Sunday as well. So keep that in mind for this week. Rob Van Dam versus Jack Perry for All In. I wouldn't do it at All In. I think they're doing it on Wednesday. So I'd rather not see some sort of schmoz where they do a rematch. I don't need to see that. So I vote no for Rob Van Dam versus Jack Perry at All In. I think they're just going to do it on Dynamite, but that might lead to somebody else coming in. I don't know who's really left that they could bring in and actually have a match with Jack Perry, but I wouldn't, you know, this is a stadium show. And one good thing about AEW is that they have gotten to this point without really relying on too many legends. They had to sign some recognizable people at first. Jericho and Moxley were the big ones, you know, and bringing in CM Punk. But overall, largely, this company has succeeded with the roster that they have had. not on the backs of retired legends. So if you have an 80,000 seat show, if I'm in Tony Khan's shoes, I want my guys and girls to get these matches. Obviously, you need to put some spectacular stuff out there for the giant Wembley Stadium crowd, but I almost think it would be disrespectful to give Rob Van Dam a match on this card when it wasn't Rob Van Dam that got you there. Everybody else got you there. So Rob Van Dam's great. I love Rob Van Dam, but I'm not putting him on the show. I'm not putting anybody like that on the show. I'm allowing my roster to be the stars. I'm allowing my roster to be the reason that 80,000 people are going there. They're not going there to see The Undertaker come out, or The Rock, or Batista, or Cena, or, Hogan, or any legends parade themselves out there and try to have another match. This crowd is there to see the current roster have matches against each other. And it's not even a WrestleMania. WrestleMania draws that amount of people. A lot of that is based on seeing names from the past and seeing big legends. And I'm sure All In will have a sprinkling of that happening. But in terms of giving matches this big, I mean, every person that has a match on the show is going to remember it. And even if I'm in Rob Van Dam's shoes, I'm unselfish in that. If you're Rob Van Dam, you've done it all, man. If Tony Khan's like, hey, I want to put you on Wembley, I'd be like, if that's what you really want, I'll do it. But are you sure? You guys, is there anybody else that maybe my spot might be better served to be with? This is going to be a memorable moment for everybody. This is going to be AEW's WrestleMania. This is going to be the closest thing they're going to get to a WrestleMania. They're probably not going to ever draw this again. If they ever run Wembley again, I predict that this will be the biggest crowd they have. They will never be bigger than this. So I think this will be it. This is the peak. So for AEW and its roster, if I'm Tony Khan, I want to be as fair as possible and get as many people out there. And you might have to book a really long show. This might have to be one of those 4.5 hour jobs that we've seen from them before, or maybe even 5 hours. And you might even need to you definitely need to chuck a battle royal out there, or do whatever you can do to get as many people involved. WWE used to do this all the time. Remember? There was a time when people wouldn't be left off WrestleMania. There was a time when they would get everybody involved somehow. Big ass battle royals, stupid backstage segments, run-ins, whatever. They would try to do their best to get everybody seen, as many people seen as possible anyway. And Tony Khan might have to do that just for this show. It's not something you want to do for every pay-per-view, but you might want to try to get everybody a match, especially some of your younger talent coming out there and just being able to make the entrance and walk and take it all in. It's good for them. It's going to be, these are going to be teaching moments, and how to wrestle in front of a big audience like this, and how to react to the differences in the noise and the sound. This is all good, and it's all experience. And I'm hoping as many AEW talent as possible can get a chance to go out there. So I'm not giving the match to Rob Van Dam. Just not. Let's scroll back up. I might have... Nope, I don't. Just making sure. Gunther's run being more impressive than Roman's. Maybe not more impressive, but Gunther's impressive in his own way. His has been a more concentrated run. It's only been a third of the length of Roman. But in terms of how he's winning his matches, I want to see Gunther win more matches on his own. He's won a lot on his own, like he did on Sunday. And that's what I want, or on Saturday. And that's what I want to see from him, like a Brock level type of heel that wins his matches, because, it gets old when every single heel has to cheat to win. I want to see a heel that baby faces are scared of, that just wins, not because he has to cheat or because he's, evil, or he resorts to, sketchy tactics, just because he's big and bad and nobody can fuck him up. He has no equal. I like that about Gunther. And I would be fine if they did book Gunther and Roman. What if it's Gunther and Roman at WrestleMania, not Roman and Cody? If you ask me, Gunther is the guy that they should be really looking at in terms of winning the championship. But Gunther and Cody, they had their seed planted at the Royal Rumble. I think their seed will continue to grow at this year's Royal Rumble. And maybe if Cody does beat Roman, maybe Gunther's the one to take it off Cody. I could see that possibly, but you got to make sure you do the right thing with Gunther. Both Gunther and Cody feel like they're primed and ready to do something big. And Gunther, Gunther is a guy that probably could, Cody, it would be hard to envision Cody winning the Rumble a second time. especially with how Gunther did last. It feels like Gunther would be the shoe-in to win this year, but I feel like the only way to get Cody to Roman is for Cody to win the Rumble. But Gunther just winning the World Heavyweight title on Raw might be all you need there, to be honest. He doesn't really necessarily have to dethrone Roman. Somebody is going to have to. At this point, it really should be Cody or Gunther. There's nobody else. There's nobody else that is even close to feeling like the guy than one of those two guys at this point, from where we sit. You know, you could have made a case for Sammy and Jay, but they've had their shots. Their shots have come and gone. So is Cody's, but I think Cody's a little bit of a different story. So y'all's guess is as good as mine. It's got to be tough. It's got to be tough to make these decisions. You don't know what the right one is. Nothing's going to please everybody. It's going to please half the audience and displease the other half. So I don't know what the right answer is for any of that. See what else you guys are saying here in the chat before we get out of here. Bring in D'Lo Brown. Supernatural, I promise you, you are in no position to criticize anybody's ring work. If Ridge Holland was negligent in any way or had any sort of malice, he wouldn't still have a job. He still wouldn't be on TV, and he wouldn't be forgiven by the person that he injured. So that is, I hate to use the overused saying, stay in your lane. But stay in your fucking lane, dude. This does not concern you. And you have no credibility in terms of offering a constructive opinion because you're probably just lashing out. By the way, Stephen Harris, thank you for that. Nick Aldis has reached an agreement deal with WWE. I believe he was present tonight as an agent. Is that right? Backstage, I forgot to mention that. I did not look at a wrestling website all day. I actually came up here to do a podcast, and all I was going to do was talk about Collision, SummerSlam, and everything else. I don't even think I looked at that, but I did see the Nick Aldis news, and if they are bringing him in, and they're going to bring him in a backstage role, that's interesting. I always thought Bruce Pritchard hated him for some reason. Whatever heat they had dating back to whenever they crossed paths, Bruce had some issue with him. So a lot of people and a lot of fans thought that was going to cockblock him getting into WWE, but apparently he's there, at least in a tryout capacity, or perhaps even signing a contract. So, yeah. Shell shock. No, I did not hear Michael Cole mention New Japan, but he has mentioned a few things like that before. I think he even referred to Sami Zayn as El Generico one time. So Michael Cole will try to be cool. Every now and then he'll try to be cool, but it's kind of like your dad trying to be cool. I'm like, nah, it's not really working. Stone Cold, good to see you. Welcome in. All right. Anybody else? Good to see you guys who chimed in here at the end. And I think that's going to do it. I'm going to get out of here. Notes are done. Like I said, make sure you stay tuned to the channel because I got to put a lot of stuff together tomorrow. So you will have a link up for Sunday's classic watch along. I'll try to put up a YouTube poll to help you guys or to have you guys help me decide which one to watch there. Maybe an ECW show. I'll be back up later this week with a podcast, just not sure where. Maybe Friday ahead of SmackDown. Friday ahead of SmackDown is possible. Thursday is also possible, depending on what we see on Dynamite. I just got to think about it, so stay tuned there. My plan, at least right now, is to come back up here on Saturday for the members, and we will continue our Saturday night's main event watch along. We're going to be doing episode number 5, I believe. That will be up on Saturday. We'll be doing that live together, and then, of course, we'll be here Sunday as well. And I'm sure you will see some mic drops sprinkled around the channel, so please stay tuned, and thank you so much for being here tonight on yet another Monday Winged Eagle. If you guys have not, anybody who has not smashed that thumbs up button, if you can do that on your way out the door, that would be appreciated. You guys have a great rest of your Monday, and I will catch you in just a couple of days for more Good Mic Work commentaries. Take care. Peace.